I'm feeling low.
The next one to focus on is the token sale. Now this is important because I like to look at the discount levels that each ICO are offering. Now, if they're offering really crazy discounts, 50%, 100%, again, normally I'll walk away from these things because normally what this is if you're a big investor, you got 50 Ethereum and all the rest of it, you can get into these ICOs, early doors, you can get a whole bunch of tokens at great value, but then when it comes to like the main market, the discounts aren't so great. It goes to the exchanges, all the big investors dump, and all the small investors are left high and dry. So I really take a consideration when looking at discounts. And really, I try to avoid anything that's 25% is my cutoff level generally. I may once in a while consider a 50%, but that's it. I don't go any lower than that. I don't think you shouldn't be giving your tokens away for free. I get the whole point of having some form of discount to encourage people to buy early doors, of course. But you really need to keep an eye on the discount level because people will dump. If I'm up 50, 100% and I've bought £100,000 worth of tokens, I'm going to dump as soon as it gets on the market because that's easy money. There's nowhere on this planet I can make that much money that quickly. So again, it's something to really consider. The other one is supply. Now I've put supply versus use, and I'm going to go through some scenarios of when you'll be able to see my thinking behind this. But again, I do get the whole point. If you have lower supply, there's more demand, the price will rise. Of course it will. But then you have to link it in with the usage. So pointless having a coin that doesn't really have much supply and not many people are going to be using it. It needs to have good amount of tokens and actually enough people that will be using it. And again, sometimes you need to balance off the fact that if there's a lot of people using it, they're not going to use a token that's like $450. You want to entice people in, so you might have a larger supply to keep the price of the token down. But it comes down to Billy Basics. Generally, in the most cases, especially now because the ICO guys have got incredibly smart about this, is that if you have a low market cap, you're paying $1 for that token. There's very few that are low market caps and going for 2 or 3 cents. Those days have gone. There have been a few, and there's a couple that I got into like that, but those days are gone. They're not so stupid, and they know people will pay. So gone are those days. You'll have on the opposite side where you've got 1 billion or 2 billion tokens or whatever it is, and those are the ones that you'll get for a couple of cents. But then you have to link it with the use cases. So let's have a little look. So let's take something like INS Grocery. So they had total tokens 50 million. In supply, they have 28 million. There's 42 million people that have bought online groceries. So, and that's just in the UK. We're not talking about all the other countries that they're playing in. So they have a token which is obviously on the lower end of the supply. But this has got a massive use case. A lot of people would be using this token. Now, if you take some of those numbers and you scale that across the world and say, let's say INS takes something like 5% or even 10% of the total online sales, which they could do. If they're 30% cheaper than even Amazon, then that's going to happen. Then, a very, very broad long-term prediction here is 118 per token, just based on those use cases. It'll get a lot higher than that if it gets mass adoption. We'd be talking $1,000 a token, but that would take a huge mass adoption. But again, at ICO, I think the very cheapest you could have got in was 97 cents. Apart from that, it was around about the $1.20 mark. So what they weren't giving this away. It was a fairly expensive token, but it has a great use case and a great product. Then we've got Ripple. Ripple have got a total of 1 trillion tokens. Now, if someone released something like this now, people would walk away and go, oh, that's mental, not touching it, it's got this supply and all the rest of it. It's just they don't understand basic fundamentals of investment, but that's why they're YouTubers or whatever it is. Then they don't understand the marketplace. The supply is currently 39 billion. It's used by the banks to move funds, and that's trillions, and I can't even think of some of the sextrillions, centrillions of dollars to between each other and all this type of thing. So this has got huge use. It's been to $3 already. I got in, this was my third call, I think back in April. in 2017. I called Ripple at 2 cents, and again got in and sat on. It went up to 20 cents. I didn't sell, and I sat on it for just ages. Really, didn't sell it. Just wanted to see where it would go, and eventually I actually sold out about 120 and 180 were my 2 step outs on this one. Never thought it would get to $3, but it did, and then it got to about 3.14, and I give my team the sell out on that. Thankfully they did, because then it absolutely tanked after that. You got to look at not just the token supply, what is the use case? Because there's a lot of people that would have walked away from Ripple saying there's too many tokens, it will never get to X amount. And it did. And it was one of the best investments in 2017 if you'd got in at early doors. The next one to focus on is the amount that they're trying to raise. And this is important because you need to look at things like Telegram. Telegram's an absolute scam for me. 850 million. They're going for another 850 million. So it's like 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion, whatever it is. It's nuts. They don't need that amount of money to do what they need to do. If we have a look at someone like INS that we've just looked at, $28 million to get the project up and running. That is a fair amount for that type of project. If we look at Amon are currently around about the 7 million mark. They'll probably get to about 10 million. That's more than enough to start running that project. Now, if they were asking for like 100 million and all this stuff, it's just absolute nonsense. Now, I get it with some of the hedge funds and those types of things. Again, they're going to want to raise those big funds because they're probably going to be loaning and margin loans against it and all the rest of it. But what it comes down to is how much do they really need to get the project, and how many of them are just being completely greedy. Because if we have a look at the top ICOs in terms of amounts of money raised, you'll very quickly see that some of them aren't even about anymore. Some of them have disappeared completely. Some of them in a bit of stress in terms of legal battles. It's an absolute mess. So you really need to have a focus on how much they're trying to raise and what is a realistic amount for that project. You can look historically at different projects and just understand, which are the great ones, which ones have survived, which ones haven't, how much did they actually take on their token sale? Because I know, for instance, Substratum only hit 35% of the total amount that they tried to raise. Now, that is one of the best projects out there at the moment. Yet it would be deemed at a very early ICO stage as a failure. Now, I mean, if you'd got in an ICO on that one, you'd be absolutely laughing. And then you want to have a look at fund allocation. So you at least want 50% as a minimum going back to the community, and then 50% held for members, for marketing, and all the functional things that they need to do. And maybe they'll hold some tokens back so they can have a second token sale in a year or two to raise more funds if they hit certain key markers. And you also want them to have some form of escrow as well. So with the really good ones, they'll put the money away. So Effect AI is one that have said already that they'll have access to funds once they hit certain mile points, so they can, as they do the work, they can unlock the money. Those are some of the great ones, and those are the ones that I believe that if they do those sort of things, they really believe in their product, they believe in themselves, that they will absolutely smash it out of the park. So there's some really key things to look at the token sale.
I'm feeling low.